This is Gary A. Swaby, and you're now listening to or watching the React podcast. And we are going to be covering the Xbox crisis that is currently going down right now. And I'm joined by Mr. Richard Bailey Jr., editor in chief at the Koalition. How are you doing today, Richard?
Doing good, Gary. What's up, listeners and viewers?
What's up, indeed? And we're also joined by a Koalition co-founder. It's really good to have him back. It's always a special occasion whenever he comes through. But shouts to Mr. Anthony Frazier of ABF Creative. How are you doing today, Anthony?
Good, man. Enjoying my Cold Stone ice cream. You know, that's what I eat on Fridays. So it's not Friday, but it feels like one. So, you know, no disrespect to anybody who lost their job. We're gonna talk about that. I ain't trying to. I'm not eating ice cream like I'm celebrating or something. Like just a Friday thing. But I'm happy to be here.
By any chance, that's not a butter pecan flavor, is it?
It's not, man. It's actually something called dough or something like cookie dough kind of ice cream. It tastes like cake batter, so it's good.
Cool, that's good. But yeah, man, it's 11 p.m. here, but I had to be here because this is big news. Like, you know, whenever there's big news in the gaming industry, you know, it's gonna summon the big dogs, which is, you know, me, Richard, and Anthony. So we had to get on here and talk about this. I had to stay up for this. So yeah, there's a lot to cover here. So I'm gonna dive right into it. Let's not waste any time. So basically the meat of the situation is this, right? Microsoft, let me just get my notes here. Okay, yeah, Microsoft is closing down Xbox Studio, the initiative, with Perfect Dark killed as well. So that's like the big headline that everybody's focusing on. But let's drill down to the specifics, right? So Microsoft basically announced mass layoffs on July 2nd, which is impacting many areas of the company's sprawling businesses, including Xbox. Overall, Microsoft is said to be cutting 4% of its staff worldwide, which affects about 9,000 people total. So, you know, Microsoft as a whole is making layoffs across the board, but it's affecting the Xbox brand the most, you know, because all these studios and stuffs are getting hit. So I'm going to list off some IPs and then I'm going to ask you guys a question. So these are some of the studios and IPs that are affected, right? You have Raven Software, you have Turn 10 Studios, who makes Forza, and nearly 50% of their staff has been laid off. It's affecting Rare, and their Everwild game is cancelled. A new ZeniMax MMO has been cancelled by the developers of Elder Scrolls Online. You know, that's completely cancelled. As I said before, Perfect Dark has been cancelled from the initiative. High Moon, which is a studio that supports Call of Duty, they do some supporting development on the Call of Duty games. I think particularly Call of Duty Warzone. So they're impacted. Some of their staff has been laid off. Sledgehammer Games is affected. Blizzard and their IP Warcraft Rumble is heavily affected by this. The Halo studio is affected, and Romero Games has been affected, and they've had to cancel funding for their new game. So that's just listing off some of the, you know, the major areas that have been affected in the Xbox division. So I want to ask you guys, based on that, right? What do these layoffs mean for the future of Xbox? You know, so I have to go to Anthony first because, you know, I love his analytical brain on these topics. So, Anthony, what does this mean for the future of Xbox? Hearing this news.
I mean, to be honest with you, I definitely read the statements. I definitely seen some of the things Xbox just made, some of the other news that they just released like 2 weeks before all this happened. And then, of course, like you said, looking at the grand scheme of things, what Microsoft is doing, to me, this just seems like a Microsoft move. And they're like forcing every division to make cuts. You know, like this AI shit is, pretty much, forcing them to get rid of like middle management, forcing them to get rid of some roles that have become redundant now because AI replaced them. And this Microsoft, so they got some version of AI that's not, not being used by consumers. So it's hard to say, oh, this AI ain't really doing nothing, when we using a commercial version of ChatGPT, not to say that it's not powerful, but we don't know what the hell they got up in there, man. Like doing all this stuff. Like they probably got some next level shit up in there. That's not, the public won't see a version of that for like a year, maybe, we're like 1 year behind what they're doing, internally. So I think that's what we're seeing. I think we're seeing a company that realizes, unfortunately, you can't run a like I saw something that said Microsoft had 200,000, 250,000, 40,000 employees. Like in the age of AI, that's crazy. When you think about it in the grand scheme of things, like that's a lot of bloat. So what's happening is like Microsoft is finding a way to be a more 2025 company, which means efficient, smooth, streamlined, and just making money. And the only way you can do that is to slim down, unfortunately. And I think that's what we're seeing now. As far as like the future of Xbox, I mean, they came out with their messaging a couple weeks ago. You see what they're doing with the handheld. I think what the future of Xbox is Roku. Xbox wants to be the Roku of gaming. When you turn on your TV, what you see? You see the Roku dashboard. But from that Roku dashboard, you can go to Xbox. You can go to PlayStation. You can go to YouTube. You can go to Twitch. You can go to Xbox wants that front end OS that they're building. That's why they're placing so much on their mobile OS and everything like that. They want that OS that they're building, and they want Game Pass to be part of multiple machines. They want that shit on multiple machines. And so they're changing as a company, unfortunately. And that means slimming down, and so that's the future of Xbox. So to me, I see the future of Microsoft and the future of Xbox are kind of like going one way and Xbox going the other, because the future of Microsoft is like slim, this, that, and the third. The future of Xbox is one OS everywhere. It's like everywhere, on our own hardware, on other people's shit too, like everywhere. And so I don't see this as like a Xbox dying moment. I see this as an Xbox reinventing himself moment. And then unfortunately, who they're going to be in the next 10 years is a lot different from what was required to operate in the last 5. And that's what we're seeing, a mix of that and the Microsoft mandate at the same time. And unfortunately, it is what it is. I did read Phil Spencer's letter, and that shit was kind of crazy, man. I ain't gonna lie. That shit was, I'm like, did the AI write that? Because that shit was crazy. He's like, yeah, we doing better than ever. But we got to let y'all go. I'm like, wait, what? What? Like, who wrote this? Maybe Copilot ain't the way to go, bro. I don't know. I don't know, man. Copilot wrote that, man. So I do think messaging and how they communicate, unfortunately, is terrible. And look, this might not all be Phil Spencer's fault. You know what I'm saying? Like he's getting the top down. They telling him he got to make the moves, he got to make the cuts, he got to get to a number. And so, unfortunately, he has to start looking at the spreadsheets and figuring out who that got to be. But, how you talk about it means everything. How you talk about it means everything. And, yeah, man, that's my take. My take is the future Xbox is still very much the future of Xbox. I'm not saying it's bright because I don't know if it's bright. The verdict is still out on that. You know what I'm saying? Being the Roku of video games, it's a tall order. You know what I'm saying? So the verdict is very much still out on that front. But it's unfortunate so many people had to lose their jobs in the middle of all this change, man. So yeah, that's my take. That's my take, man.
Yeah. You said something that I agree with in terms of, streamlining, because like we got to remember, like Microsoft just acquired all these gaming publishers, right? They acquired ZeniMax, they acquired Blizzard, they acquired what was the other one?
Bethesda, Activision.
Yeah, Bethesda, Activision, right? So with all of these companies they acquired, a bunch of new staff comes with them. Like they inherited so many new staff, and it's not even just the companies they acquired. Like when they acquired the Call of Duty IP, there's like so many side studios that work on that game that aren't even, with Activision. Like they're just subsidiaries or whatever that help to develop Call of Duty, right? So they inherited so much staff, and they already did have a batch of layoffs, I think, a year ago. So they've already laid off some, but it's like they still have so much staff, and it's like I think they're just looking at it like we can't. This isn't sustainable.
Down, man. They big, bro. I looked it up. I was looking the other day. I was like, how many staff do these guys got? And I saw 240,000. I was like, damn, they got 250,000 people working.
And it is sad because these are people's jobs, these are people's livelihoods, so it's sad, but it's like every company is doing this right now because of this AI stuff. Like you mentioned, like all companies are kind of downsizing. They're looking at ways to cut, spending and stuff. So it's just the reality we're in, sadly. So yeah, I agree with that point.
I think, let me mention this one thing. Yeah. Microsoft, they're bold. I'm going to say they're bold because they're very much a rip the Band-Aid off company. Like they have no problem being first to rip the Band-Aid off. Like, fuck it. We got to get rid of niggas. Like, my bad. I ain't going to say it like that, but but they have no problem doing that. People act like people treat them like it's something called the innovator's dilemma. Like because they're first, they're gonna get all the knives. They're gonna get all the knives. But if you're watching this and you're a PlayStation fan or whatever you are, a Nintendo fan, stop thinking this ain't gonna happen for them too, because it's coming. It's just that Microsoft don't care about their public image. Unfortunately. They can care. They can give two shits about how the public perceives them. Sony is way different. Sony cares about how their fan base looks at them and views them. Sony really, really, really does. They pay attention to that shit. I've been looking over the years, like Sony don't. They make very strategic moves to make sure that they always have in control of the story. They always want to be in control of the narrative, and it's worked out for them. Look where we at. Because for the longest, people was like, "Oh yeah, Microsoft putting their games everywhere." Ha ha ha. What just got announced today? I don't know if that's on the list to talk about today.
Helldivers 2. Yep.
Look what just happened. It's starting to look like they're gonna do the same thing, but guess what? They were so in control of their narrative Everybody don't think that though. Everybody don't think that they're doing the same thing. When you listen to the financial calls, the CEO is literally saying it. He's saying, yo, we got to go multi-platform. But when you go to the message boards, they're like, nah, man, that's not what Sony meant. Sony meant just PC, just Steam, and that's it. And Nintendo, Come on, man. Who we? Y'all, come on now. We talking about numbers, man. We talking about numbers. What's that AI joint? He's like, we talking about practice? Like, we talking about numbers. Y'all really think this company that makes billions of dollars not moving that way? Yeah, they're going to move slowly because they still want to be in control of the narrative. But you're fooling yourself if you think that there are not cuts coming to Sony. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Sony, one of the largest companies, so they're just going to stay fat and stay as a corporation, stay fat, burning billions of dollars in overhead every month just so they can make y'all feel good? Are we kidding? Like, I don't know, man. That's it. That's just like, everybody's going to do this. That's my whole point. Microsoft is just the one to be like, all right, we don't care how we proceed. Unfortunately, they don't care how they proceed. We've seen this for years. They don't care. So,
yeah, I mean, that, like I said, like Microsoft isn't the only corporation making layoffs. Like, it's happening everywhere, like in a lot of industries, but in the tech industry, it's happening a lot. So, if it happened on Sony's side of things, I wouldn't be shocked, and that would also be sad. But let's hear from Mr. Richard Bailey Jr. So, Richard, like, what do these layoffs mean for the future of Xbox?
Well, first and foremost, let me say the layoffs, it's very unfortunate. I've been to a couple of events this year. I went to GDC back in March. I went to Summer Game Fest, back in June. So when I went to GDC, Microsoft actually had an Xbox event there, like an Xbox preview event where you get to play games and you talk to a lot of PR. A lot of those PR I've exchanged emails with over the years. So having the opportunity to meet some of them in person finally was great. But then to hear that a lot of them are also now no longer without a job, that's unfortunate because, yeah, I know one individual in particular that announced it earlier on Twitter. And I say, yeah, I do know that guy because I actually saw him at GDC back in March and was talking about what Xbox had planned as far as what their plans were going to be for around their showcase in June. So it is unfortunate to hear about that. I will make this comment, however, with Microsoft, as far as everything is concerned. I know, obviously, the focus is on what has been happening with Xbox, but this entire year, Microsoft has been doing massive layoffs. So it's not just, not just affecting the gaming division, but in particularly with Xbox, it is unfortunate to see this. Like you guys both said, I think this is an issue of Microsoft acquiring too many things when they decided to acquire Activision, Bethesda, and then they didn't really have a way to manage any of that stuff. Because if I'm not mistaken, Matt Booty, his job is to monitor and communicate with these studios. So I would say when you have to make all these cuts, the leadership is to blame for this as well in terms of what are they doing, how are they handling the budgets, and obviously we know that several years ago, there was a pandemic that kind of changed the way you work. A lot of people were working remotely. You've heard stories about Microsoft having people working remotely, and then a lot of companies asking those workers to come back into the office. So you can factor some of that stuff in there as well. But however, I think this is about the management of the studios. And I know that initially, Phil Spencer was under a lot of pressure. In the past, he said a lot of things about he wanted to compete with Sony. He wanted to win, do whatever he can to win. And I feel like his boss, Nadella, gave him opportunities by allowing him to acquire all these studios. But again, the question that we had, every time we would go to E3 or we're watching an E3 presentation, you see, okay, this game looks cool. And then you don't see the game again for several years. I'm like, where the hell, what the hell happened to this game? There are several games that was shown at that 2020 Xbox showcase event that we still haven't seen any updates on. Now, Everwild getting canceled, yeah, that made sense because we hadn't seen that game in almost it feels like 5 years. The Perfect Dark game, however, when you get to that, Gary, that is, I don't understand that, because last year, and I was at that Xbox showcase last year in person in LA, that was probably one of Microsoft's best showcases, where you got to see all these games they were working on. But that game in particular, a lot of people were very excited. They're like, some people like, that can't be real, that has to be fake. But that game, they showed us gameplay. So to hear now it's canceled, it absolutely sucks. Now, obviously, it's been in development for a long time, but it's unfortunate. But to go to the point of, as you asked, Gary, what does this mean for Xbox? I would say, yes, Xbox is making changes. They obviously want to implement AI better into their ecosystem. But I will also say that, in my opinion, the future of Xbox is as a third-party publisher. I don't think, like, I know they're talking about the handheld now. They're going to be talking about the next Xbox. But honestly, this company is headed in direction of, we're just going to make game software. And you see that, Gears of War Reloaded, which the beta was released a couple of weeks ago. I played that on PlayStation. That's coming to PlayStation in August. Obviously, Starfield, a game that is still on Xbox that they haven't really announced any updates for. I'm pretty sure that's coming to PlayStation as well. So I feel like when they had that whole thing where they started out where we only have 4 games we're announcing that are coming to other platforms, that was the beginning of this, because we all knew it's not going to be only 4 games. So yes, more games will be coming to other platforms, which is fine. They have to make money. But again, my whole thing with Microsoft is, if you want to acquire these studios, that's fine, but you should have some type of plan as to what you are going to do from a strategy standpoint. You can't just acquire all this stuff and then hope it works out, because that's not good. But it is unfortunate for the layoffs. I do hope everybody gets on their feet. And I will say this, because I currently am working at a contractor at my job. I've been working at a contractor for the most part of a lot of the jobs that I've had over the several years. So I know that contract can end at any point in time. I know what it's like when the job ends. Now you have to worry about bills, so on and so forth. So I fully understand what these people are going through. And yes, it does make you concerned about stability in the job market, in the gaming industry specifically, but in any industry. But the gaming industry, obviously, that is always an issue that comes up. We know some people that we know who no longer have jobs that worked in that industry, so on and so forth. So it's a tough industry to get into, but it's also tough to actually keep a job in that industry as well. So that's a word of advice for anybody that does go into the industry. But yeah, we'll see what happens with Microsoft. But I mean, I still will support whatever games they're releasing, but clearly they have a lot of issues they need to figure out. And I know Phil Spencer, this is the last point I will make. Phil Spencer did say at this last Xbox showcase, next year is, I believe, the 25th anniversary of the Xbox. He said, yeah, we're going to be having a new Gears game. We're going to have another Forza game, and of course, Fable, right? Okay, I'll believe that when I see it. But we'll see what happens.
Oh yeah, they're not in a good position to make promises at the moment. I feel like in the future they need to just develop the game, finish it first, and then announce it. Like they shouldn't even announce future projects anymore. But yeah, great thoughts overall. So let's focus on these cancellations a bit, right? So you mentioned Perfect Dark, you mentioned the announcement and everything, and the excitement behind it. I know a lot of people were very excited for this game coming back, and yeah, so Perfect Dark, that was one of the games that have just been straight up canceled. There was also a unannounced Bethesda project. Bethesda ZeniMax, they make the Elder Scrolls Online, which is an ongoing MMO, very popular, one of the most popular ones out there, and they were working on a new one, and that has been completely scrapped after putting in millions of dollars into the project and stuff like that. So I want to ask you guys, at this point, so what future IPs are there that you're looking forward to? For me personally, I want that Elder Scrolls 6. You know, I want that Elder Scrolls 6. That's what I was waiting for, and I hope that that's not in jeopardy now because you know Bethesda has had a lot of cuts. But you know, what IPs are you guys, you know, looking forward to in the future now? Like with the state
Nothing.
that Xbox is in. Go ahead, Anthony.
Nothing. I said that like I spilled ice cream on my shirt, but it's all good. I knew it was gonna happen. I was like, I'm gonna regret this. I'm gonna regret eating ice cream on camera, and I just did. I'm not looking forward to nothing. Microsoft has me looking forward to nothing. And I don't say that in a negative way. That's what they want. This is what they want. This is what they're driving everybody towards. Like what Rich said is important. Is important. Like they're a third-party publisher, but I think they want to be more than that. See, a lot of people, when you call Microsoft a third-party publisher, that will probably frustrate them. They're like, no, we're not a third-party publisher. We're a third-party platform. That's what they want to be. A publisher, that's tiny compared to what they're trying to be. They're trying to be a third-party platform. They want to be Steam. They want to be Roku. They want to be Fire, Amazon. They want to be Prime. You know what I'm saying? Like they how dare you call them a third-party publisher? They will be so mad at you for that. So they want to have their own studio, but also they're like, look, PlayStation, bring your games here. Nintendo, bring your, that's never happening, but Nintendo, bring your games here. Steam. You saw what they said, the new Windows store, the new Xbox storefront, you're going to have access to the Steam. You're going to have access to all game storefronts that's available. So that's what we have here, bro. Like that's and I say all that to say, like, that's the reason why I'm not looking forward to any game. I'm still going to enjoy the Xbox platform because it's actually, as somebody who doesn't have much time to play games as much as I used to, I still play games. I'm like, yo, the Xbox platform is actually better suited to me. Like, I can get my PlayStation stuff here. I can get this here. I can get games on Steam here. I'm actually looking forward to that box, not because I'm looking forward to games from Xbox specifically. I'm just looking forward to a box where I get access to everything. I'm okay with that. And if that's where they want to go, that's where they want to go.
But is that box going to exist in the next generation at this rate?
I think so. Okay. I think so. I think the handheld is the preview to the box. So when you look at the handheld and you get access to the, already you get access to from Windows 11, the new Windows Xbox storefront on the Asus. You get Xbox to Steam. You get access to Steam and all these other storefronts directly from the Xbox dashboard. I believe that's a preview of the next generation Xbox. I believe the next generation Xbox, they're going to try to make this a PC home console hybrid. I think
that was one of my predictions. Like I feel like they're going to bridge that gap between gaming PC and the next Xbox. I don't think it's going to be like a traditional console. I think you're going to have the handheld and then you're going to have the PC. It's going to be like a PC console hybrid, because what they did with the Rogue Ally, what they did is they made a customized Windows 11 OS for that, and it gets rid of all the bloat, and it's just a gaming OS, right? And they had to do this because Steam also released their own OS because they got the Steam Deck, right? So now Steam has their own OS, and you can actually put their OS on the Rogue Ally devices, right? So now they're competing with Steam, kind of. But yeah, I think it was smart for them to do that because now they can put that OS, they can make that OS the new Xbox, basically. And if they get to the point where you can bring your Xbox console library and merge it with your PC library, that's going to be their game changer.
That's the new war. Think about it. That's the new war. The war is no longer over the boxes. The war is over the software. PlayStation. If you think PlayStation OS ain't coming, you got something. You're fooling yourself. PlayStation got their own OS coming, where they don't care what game is being launched out of it, long as you using it. Long as they got you as a monthly active user paying X amount of dollars per month, launching whatever game you got from the PlayStation dashboard. That's what everybody wants. That's what Roku, one of the largest companies in the world, bro. But they don't own shit. What do they own? What do Roku own? What do they do? What do they do? What do they do? It's just the OS. Think about it. And guess what? They got a little box. They got a little that you plug up to the TV. That's what Xbox want to be. They say, yeah, we got our own hardware, but you don't need it. Remember, Xbox can launch from the TVs now. Remember? You don't even need a box anymore. Remember, this is all for a reason. They've been setting this up for a while now, man. They had their foot in one door and out the door at this. That's how they've been fooling us. They had their foot out the door and in the door at the same time. So we would see traditional gaming industry moves and be like, oh yeah, Xbox, they making it, they doing it. But meanwhile, they doing like other shit that's kind of like, yeah, we kind of out, yo. Like we inching our way out the door, but we're gonna do a few things so the traditional gamers still think we, you know what I'm saying? They can't lose all the fans all at once. So they just did a little bit here and there just to satisfy a small little segment. But meanwhile, Samsung TVs got Xbox on it without no box. You making Windows OSs and shit that takes out the bloat. Like literally, they didn't do that overnight either. Like that wasn't an overnight move what Gary talking about. They didn't just wake up one day last week and say, nah, we about to make this. Like, yo, this has been in their plans for a long time, man. Yeah.
So what you're saying is when Phil had that speech and he said, yeah, we're only going to send 4 games to other platforms. What he meant to say, yeah, we're only going to send 40 plus games to every other platform.
Phil is a wordsmith. He said at this very moment.
Yep, yeah.
All we're going to do is send 4 games, which was the truth at that moment. But that moment passed, and that was a new moment. So you got to really read between the lines on these dudes now, yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like he a wordsmith, bro. And look, plans change too. That's the hard part about being the Phil Spencer kind of leader, man. It's like he's not really like he's a leader, but he's not. Like he's still got a boss. And he's not running Microsoft Gaming like a true CEO gets to run it. Unfortunately. That's why it's funny that he's the CEO of Microsoft Gaming. I'm like, nigga, you just a VP of Microsoft. Like, because when you have a title say CEO, that means like, you know what I mean? That means you get this, you make the decisions, you get to say, and the real CEO steps out of the way and lets you run that company the way you're supposed to run it. Think about Audible. Like I think Audible's a great example. Audible has a CEO. Audible's owned by Amazon. You think Jeff Bezos is coming looking in the pockets of Audible? Yeah, what y'all got in y'all pockets over here? No. Don't get me wrong. I know that Audible CEO definitely probably has to give a report, but he's running the company like a CEO runs a company. I don't think Microsoft Gaming is ran that way. I think Microsoft Gaming is very much still tied to the moves of the parent company. Whereas if you look at a company like Audible, I don't think they are. Like, that's a true autonomously run organization. Xbox is not autonomously run, and we're seeing it right now. With everything we're seeing it. They're not on an island, and so calling Phil the CEO of Microsoft Gaming gives the impression that there's going to be this independently run organization, and it just isn't, and it's unfortunate. So I said a lot of shit, but Phil, I still love you though, bro.
You were cooking. That's good. But yeah, so Richard, the question was, with what IPs are you actually looking for now with all these cancellations and layoffs?
Well, I do agree with what has already been said. It's hard to look forward to anything when you know that Microsoft, they have not been delivering. Obviously, Game Pass has been delivering because damn near every game that comes out comes to Game Pass. Not every game. But I have noticed this year specifically, a lot of the games have day one releases, even if it's not a major title. Like Expedition 33, perfect example. That was probably one of the best games released, I think, in April. And that was also on Game Pass. So, yeah. But to answer the question, I really am hoping, Gary, that that Blade game is not canceled. Because when I saw that, I said, I'm familiar with the developer working on the game. Obviously, that game will be on PlayStation because guess what? But every Bethesda game is on every platform. So if it is released, I haven't heard any reports. It's dead yet. State of Decay, I heard there was a report saying that game is safe. I can't really say I'm looking forward to the game per se, but I still want to see, because again, Phil Spencer, when all of this news came out, this guy also had the nerve to say, we have about 40 games currently in development. Okay, so I want to see how many of those games are going to see the light of day, because obviously several games have already been canceled and studios have closed. So what the hell 40 games is he talking about? I need to see what he's talking about.
Rich, man. That word development is a catch-all name, a catch-all word, man. You know what development means? Like, we want to get down to the nitty gritty.
Yeah.
Development, like, I'm a podcast producer. The moment I write down on the paper the name of a new podcast that I'm thinking about, guess what? It's in development.
Yeah. That makes sense.
The moment I write it down, it's in development. That's what development means.
Mm-hmm.
So when he comes out and says, we have 40 games in development,
mm-hmm.
They got 40 ideas probably.
Yeah.
Like, that means that these things could be at any stage. Like, more than half of those games he's talking about could be just stickers on a whiteboard. And then some of them could be actually real people actually further along, and then some of them probably are just like maybe in between there. But I'm saying that's a catch-all statement. Saying you got 40 games in development, man. Back in the day, you used to be like, oh, word. But now it's like, come on, man. Development is like, we just started before this call. We're developing something now. We talked about a new show. That's in development. We just put something in development.
Yeah.
So, you know what I mean? Like that, when he says something like that, it don't really mean much. It don't mean anything. So
very good point.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. As for me, I mean, I want to see what's happening with this Elder Scrolls 6, because I'm sure they announced that like 5-6 years ago or something, and we still haven't heard anything about that.
That ain't man. They can't cancel. That's a tentpole, bro. You can't cancel that.
Yeah, you can't cancel that.
But I'm gonna tell you something. Blade is done.
Oh,
Wait, you can't just cancel Blade game though.
Bro, the movie. The movie definitely is done. The movie's done.
Blade is finished. The game is done. Blade is going to be canceled, bro. We ain't seen shit. We ain't heard shit. We don't know shit. Cut teams getting cut left. Yeah, that game done. You know what I mean?
Well,
Did anybody get cut from that studio in this latest round? The studio that's putting out Blade?
Who is that? Bethesda, right?
Yeah, it's the same guys that made Deathloop. That same director that made Deathloop.
Anybody from his team get cut?
We'll say what?
Any layoffs from his studio? From that studio specifically.
See, that's the thing. I haven't heard anything about that. And I think it's very interesting how when they made the announcement of these cuts, they try to be very cryptic. They don't tell you all the studios affected us. So when Gary had that list, I was surprised. I'm like, is that every studio? I'm pretty sure there's some others that did get the cut, but they obviously have not documented that. So yeah, it could be affected. But let me just make this a quick comment, Gary, because you said Elder Scrolls 6. Another one that they absolutely cannot get rid of is Fallout, because now with the TV show, they know people are going to want another Fallout game, so they cannot afford for something to happen to whatever that next game is.
Fallout ain't going nowhere. That's a tent pole, man. They're not getting rid of any tent poles, man.
Yeah.
But that's why Blade is gone.
Yeah. It's
that's
possible.
Why Blade is gone. Because they're not getting rid of any tent poles. So somebody got to get the axe. Bro, more people are playing. Did you see? Here's the most telling thing. Turn 10?
Turn 10. Forza?
Turn 10?
Yep.
50% of turn 10 got cut, bro.
Yep.
That was interesting.
I saw that coming.
That was interesting. I'm going to tell you, that was interesting to me. I'll be surprised if we see another Forza.
Well,
did he said another Forza was coming?
Yeah, he said there's another Forza in development, but let's be honest. Turn 10.
That might be Forza Horizon.
Bro, yes. those games can probably be automated. Like it's the same thing. Like it's driving, right?
Well, here's the thing, though. For Forza Horizon, let's be very candid. We can talk. Yeah, it's way better than the regular Forza Motorsport game. I'm not trying to throw shade on Turn 10. Obviously, the Forza Horizon games, but the issue is Playground. They're working on the Fable game now. So when they said there's another Forza coming, I don't know. He wasn't very clear about what exactly that Forza is.
There's another Forza Horizon coming, brother. It's another Forza Horizon coming.
Hopefully it is. Yeah, that would be great because
you see how good Forza Horizon just did on PlayStation?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
You see how it's dominating PlayStation right now? Forza Horizon is the best racing game on PlayStation right now.
Yeah, I believe that.
They about to shut Turn 10 down.
I haven't looked at the numbers, but is it doing better than Gran Turismo?
What? Yo, it did better than Gran Turismo in month 1. Not Gran Turismo as a franchise, but we talking about Gran Turismo today. You know what I mean? It's shitting on Gran Turismo, bro. PlayStation fans voted with their wallet, by the way, man. I don't have to say nothing. You just look at the top 10 playing games right now on PlayStation and tell me if Forza Horizon ain't there.
I believe that, and I will also piggyback and also mention Gears of War also, because the Gears of War beta, when I played that, man, it was so easy to get a match. And then I talked to our boy Adam Vale on Xbox, having issues getting into matches. So when I went on PlayStation, I was in a match just like that. So obviously people want to play these games on PlayStation. And I think that's also going to sell well when it comes out next month. However, it's coming out the same day as Helldivers 2. So that'll be very interesting to see what happens with those two games coming out the same time. But yeah, people definitely want to play these Xbox games on PlayStation.
Yeah, no doubt about it. This Helldivers is the first of many, bro. The first of many. You know, we already seen Death Stranding come over.
Yeah.
Even though somebody else published it, but you saw it come over. The next Death Stranding is not going to take a long time to get on Xbox. I can almost guarantee it. It's not going to take 3 years to come over to Xbox. The next Death Stranding might actually be on Xbox. I'll be surprised if Death Stranding 2 wasn't on Xbox within 6 to 12 months.
Oh yeah.
I would be thoroughly surprised, bro. Look what's going on with Final. You see Square Enix. You see how happy they are to be having their game everywhere now.
Finally, yes.
You see Sega putting their game everywhere. Yo, exclusivity is it's old. It's old news. Exclusivity is old. If you ain't Nintendo, it's old news. It doesn't benefit PlayStation or Xbox to have exclusive games anymore. Xbox was just saying, look, I'll be the bad guy and just admit it, and clearly they had an incentive to, because their hardware not selling that great. So they had an incentive to, so they just said, all right, we're going to drag the industry into the future, kicking and screaming, because we're not doing good. So everybody got to get dragged into the future quicker than they want it to be, You know how somebody ain't getting enough money, somebody, ain't doing good, and they're like, fuck it, everybody got to suffer now. That's what Microsoft doing. Like, Microsoft, like, all right, we ain't selling Xboxes, everybody's suffering. We dragging the whole industry into the future, whether they want to be there or not. And now look, Sony is like, damn, man, these Xbox trying to create this platform now, and they moving faster than us. We ain't even thinking about that right now. We still selling PlayStation. We still selling boxes. Like, we ain't thinking about third-party platform. They ain't thinking about that. But now they got to think about it, because they don't want to get left behind. They don't want to come 10 years later and be like, damn, now we started thinking. Like, they got to think about it now, because Xbox forced the industry to move forward.
Yeah, you know what I think timed exclusivity is the new exclusivity,
right?
Because like, video games cost so much to make now that you need to get that money on the back end too. So like, obviously you get your initial release, and that can be exclusive to the PlayStation, the PlayStation 5, you get your game exclusive. But then, a year later, you republish it on PC and Xbox, and you double up, like you get that back end money as well, because they need to get these returns on these games because they cost so much to make now. So I think timed exclusivity is the new exclusivity, where you're no longer going to see these games like stay on just one system. Like, it's just for a set period of time. So I think that's what's going to happen. But yeah, so we've been talking about Phil Spencer, right? And there was a rumor that circulated yesterday, shortly after all of this news came out, that Phil Spencer will retire when this generation of Xbox is over. But Microsoft did clean that up. They did come out, and make a statement about that, and they quickly denied these rumors and said that Phil Spencer is sticking around. Now, that could have been done because of stocks or whatever. They don't want to affect stocks. They don't want to, they don't want people to know what's happening. But what do you guys think? Do you think Phil Spencer's time might be coming to an end? And do you think, they're prepping Sarah Bond or someone to step up? Like, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, is it Sarah Bond? I don't know. I think it might be Sarah Bond or Matt Booty. One of those two will be the one to take over. I definitely think Phil has no incentive to stay. I think he has no incentive to stay. I think Phil is through. I think he's through. He did what he did. I personally don't think he's going to be part of this new era of what Xbox is turning into. I don't think he wants to be. You know what I mean? I don't think he wants to be. I think he's out. I think he's gone for sure. Like, it was hard for me to see it before, but now that Xbox is turning into something totally different, it's not hard for me to see it anymore. Like, I genuinely think he's definitely gonna retire. Yeah. Yeah. And I don't think he's gonna he's at the age where he's like, I don't know. I wonder if he's gonna go get another job or like truly retire. Because he is really high up at Microsoft. So those are really cushy jobs. I mean, yeah. When you leave a job like that, his package is probably insane. He's like,
he's got that pension. That pension must be big. So
yeah, I mean, sheesh. He's been at Microsoft for like long time. He's not somebody who just came in as an executive transfer. He's somebody who started as like a junior role and like worked his way up. So that 401k is crazy. So, he I don't know if it's a real retirement or if he will like do something else in the gaming industry, maybe. I don't think Phil should leave. I don't think he should leave. I don't know. Like, I look at like Reggie from Nintendo and what he's kind of doing. I kind of see Phil Spencer kind of doing that, putting a book out, doing some speaking engagements, like some interviews, talking ish about the industry. That's what I see. But he's gone. He's gone.
Yeah, I think he could make a lot of money as a consultant, after this is all done. Like he could, because he's got a lot of knowledge now to share. So
I think him, Reggie, and that other and the Sony guy are gonna get together and make a consultant.
Make a company.
Yeah. Yost P. So
Yoshida
Reggie, and Phil gonna get together and make a consultancy. They'll clean up too, man.
Yeah. Richard, what do you think about that? Do you think it's over for Phil Spencer, or you think?
Oh yeah. I agree 100% with what was said about him being a consultant. I actually saw Yoshida when I went to Summer Game Fest, and what he was doing was looking at various games there, and then talking about those games. Like one of the indie games he was looking at was this game Omut. It's like a horror type of game, one of those boss battle type of games. He released a statement about that game. That game got a whole bunch more attention after he released that statement. So Phil Spencer could definitely go into a consultant role. And I do believe 1000% that they are preparing Sarah Bond to take that role. I think everyone likes her at the company. It just feels like they're heading in that direction. As for the comment about Matt Booty, like I said earlier, no disrespect, but Matt Booty's his particular role at Microsoft is to manage, consult, and communicate with all of the studios they currently have in their roster. We saw that in several videos that they've had over the years in their presentations. So when I see a studio getting congratulated, and then all of a sudden, they talk about, oh yeah, this game did it phenomenal on the console, and then the studio gets closed anyway, I have to question, what is he doing in this position? And obviously, like I said, Nadella is the one making these decisions because he is the boss over all of them. But clearly, with his role being what it is, I don't think I would want to see him take over with Phil's position. I would much rather see Sarah Bond. But we'll have to wait and see what happens, unless there is someone else they have in mind that we haven't seen yet that's in the industry that can take this job.
What kind of leader you think Sarah Bond could be, man?
That's a great question. I have no idea. Obviously, the stuff she's done with ID at Xbox has been good, perceived as pretty good. I think that she would try to do what she can in terms of, she is also a gamer as well. Maybe she would try to do what she can to appease gamers and know what they want in terms of the games that are coming out. They obviously have she was the main one talking about the hardware as well as the handheld. So obviously she can get people interested in whatever she's trying to push for Microsoft gaming. But that's a great question. I don't know what kind of leader she would be. And that would be a test to see how she would do leading this particular division. Like you said, she isn't really the one in charge. It's the people above her that are making these decisions, because even if she comes up with a good strategy, they can say, no, we don't trust that strategy. We're going to do this our way. So that's why I say it's a tricky situation.
That's true. Is she going to be someone who just totes the company line and just like does what Nadella says and not really push back too much? Or is she going to be somebody who introduces new ideas, challenges the establishment, and really just, be somewhat of a maverick within Microsoft? I wonder, I do wonder, like, would a new person who takes over from Phil actually make that much of a difference? I do wonder. So there's something to think about.
I do wonder, and one last point that I will mention, just so I could be fair to Nadella, I do understand him getting more involved in this stuff, because we are aware of what happened with the FTC when Microsoft had to go to court, all that nonsense over, Call of Duty and so on and so forth. I'm sure he did not want to have to spend money going through that entire process and bringing more attention to Microsoft, because in that, they also revealed in those court documents all the stuff they were working on. So clearly, I think he thought maybe Phil, brought him through this entire process. It made it a lot more difficult for him to do his job. So I understand why he is taking more of a hands-on approach to saying, no, you can't do that, you can't do this, but still at the same time, they got to have a strategy as in terms of what they're trying to do with whatever they're doing, whether it's releasing games or hardware. They got to have a plan and try to execute on that plan, but also have realistic expectations, So
unfortunately, they can't fly under the radar. I think that's what they thought they can do. Buying Activision was a big, you can't fly under the radar. But honestly, I think that's how Phil saved Xbox. I think we see two different narratives. I mean, there's a world where if you don't buy Activision, Nadella kills Xbox.
Yeah, that's possible. Yeah.
You see Nadella, he ruthless, man. He cutting. You see cut 9,000 employees like it's like he just took a piss. Like this dude. He with it. He with it, man. And I think he would have cut Xbox like it was nothing and went on about his day like it never existed. I truly believe this man. If Activision doesn't get bought, Xbox doesn't exist.
Yeah.
I think now I wouldn't have said that 3 months ago. I wouldn't have said that 6 months ago. But today I feel strongly saying that. Now that like we see the job cuts, we see everything going on, we see the new direction Xbox has to take. Where the industry is going. I think they been knew all of this before we did. And if they didn't make the Activision move, that was it. Xbox was done. Period. So that's I think that's the God honest truth. And if they don't do what they're about to do, which is run efficiently by partnering with other hardware makers to create Xbox devices, then the Xbox dies again.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So, like, people are saying, oh, we want a new Xbox to come out. Bro, you see what they just did with the Aces? Like, that's the new model. Let's not kid ourselves. The new Xbox console will be partnering with another hardware maker.
Yeah. AMD, right?
AMD's making a chip.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But don't be surprised if Asus is the one making the box. I'm serious. They're putting a lot of energy behind the software. They're saying the software just needs the chip to run. Whatever chip that they're making, they're saying the software with the chip is really the 1-2 punch. That means any box, any hardware, as long as it got those two items, is an Xbox. Anything that has those two things are an Xbox. They just told you. It's in plain sight.
Yeah.
It's in plain sight. They just told you. Yo, there is not going to be a Microsoft made Xbox anymore. That's over with. There will be another Xbox, but it won't be made by Microsoft. Just the chip and the software. That's it.
Because producing those costs Microsoft too much money, and they're not making a return off of it right now. So, yeah, makes sense to partner with, Asus or someone similar.
Yeah, because remember, they're a platform, not a box anymore. So my thing is, people are going to be like, "Oh, this ain't an Xbox." That's why they're going with this whole "this is an Xbox" campaign, because they're trying to get people used to the fact that the software, the storefront, the whatever, that's the Xbox, not the box itself. Mm-hmm. The software is the Xbox, not the box itself. They're trying to get that in your brain. So that way when the Asus Series P come out, you don't get upset.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I don't know, man. I don't know. Sony's definitely putting another box out, though.
Oh, yeah.
Sony's definitely got another 1 or 2 generations left in them before it's really out. But, yeah.
So, Sony and Nintendo, because you see how much the Switch 2 just sold. So, they're staying in the hardware market for a long time.
But believe you me, don't think Sony not looking at what Microsoft doing and thinking, damn, they making some good money. Because if they sell just a little bit of Xboxes, they don't make more money than they made selling the Series X. Because they're going to probably come out the gate profitable. They're going to come out the gate making money. Versus like with Sony, they got to take some time, recoup, But for them, like, you can't be Sony and not release a PlayStation 6. It's just not happening. Just not happening. There can never be a PlayStation made by someone else. It's never happening. It's never happening.
Because that's what they're known for. They're known as a hardware.
Yeah, PlayStation will live and die by that box, bro. I'm sorry. They can't do what Microsoft doing. This whole OS shit, they're gonna try it. You're gonna see the PlayStation OS come out soon. They're gonna try it, but they can't do what Xbox doing. If you ain't got a PlayStation, it's a wrap. The moment PlayStation becomes a box that doesn't sell, it's over. It's over. So they're gonna do anything. That's why they're so desperate. That's why they say, listen, they're doing all these exclusive shit at first and doing all this because to them they know they can't do what they do. They can't. They gotta live or die by that box, bro. Like Nintendo too. Nintendo gotta live and die by that box. They ain't going nowhere. They ain't going nowhere. PlayStation 7 gonna be out. You're gonna stop seeing PlayStations by like 8. Probably. Maybe 9. But
Yeah.
PS10, we ain't even gonna be around for that probably. I don't know, man.
We'll have to wait and see. But so final question here before we wrap this up. So we've kind of touched on this a lot, but like just to end off and let everybody know where we're at with it. So in your opinion, what should Microsoft do next to keep the Xbox brand relevant? So what should be their future plan? And we've kind of spoke on it, but just to reiterate it, so if we leave it in the people's consciousness before we wrap this up, what do you think they need to do next to keep the Xbox brand relevant? So I'm going to go to you first, Richard.
Well, Gary, a controversial answer. I don't think that there's anything that they can or will do. I mean, now they all they can do is release games, the hardware. I feel as though Xbox brand identity is gone because Gears of War, Halo is the last game remaining that hasn't gone to PlayStation yet. That will happen at some point in time. I'll be surprised when they announce this next Halo game sometime in October. I will be surprised if they don't announce this is also coming to PlayStation. But I feel like they, again, Gears of War, like I said it previously, that beta was packed on PlayStation. You know, there was a lot of people playing. Clearly, people want to play more Xbox games on PlayStation. So I feel like only thing that Xbox can do now is focus on making great games, making great hardware, but that's about it. There's not going to really be any exclusive content to the console or whatever platform they're on. I just feel like they don't really care about that anymore. They just want to get games out to everywhere, to as many people as possible. So if they focus on doing that, then that's it. They'll be good. But again, like you guys said, if things do not work out with these other partnerships, if they're making the hardware and stuff, then yeah, Xbox is over with. But for now, all they can really focus on, I think, is making great games and hardware. That's it.
Yeah, that is a way to look at it. And you know, I'll go right before Anthony. We're gonna end with Anthony, but yeah, my thoughts on this is I think Microsoft and Xbox needs to go the direction that Anthony mentioned. So like the way I see it is right. The PC gaming market is huge, like you know, and there's many benefits to being a PC gamer, right? But there's a barrier of entry because it's very technical. A lot of people, you know, they're confused about which parts they need to buy to build the system. They don't know where they can buy a pre-made one from. And then when you buy the system, there's so much to it, like because Windows 11 is like there's a lot of bloat, there's a lot of different programs you need to enable and all this stuff. So it's very technical for a lot of people. And sometimes you just want to play a game and it doesn't work on your system because of XYZ. You know, you might have the wrong graphics card or whatever, and you need to install a plugin to fix it. You know, there's all these technical issues with PC gaming, right? That makes people not willing to buy into PC gaming because you know they just want to play a game. They just want to turn it on and play. That's it, right? So I think that is going to be Microsoft's solution moving forward. They are going to be the ones to simplify the PC gaming experience with the next Xbox system. Like Anthony mentioned, is probably going to be, you know, Asus or something. It's going to be made by them, but Microsoft is going to put their custom Windows OS on there, and the OS is going to allow you to, you know, you install the different game marketplaces, whether it's Epic Games, Steam, you know, or Blizzard. You know, they got their own launcher, so you could have all these different launchers on there. And you know, it's just turn on and play. It's a gaming PC, but it's just turn on and play. That's it. Like, and maybe you can install their own apps on there, like Notes or whatever, Word, if you want to. But it's going to be very simplified. It's not going to be like a normal PC that you use for work and gaming. You know, it's going to be to be specifically for gaming. So I think that is going to be their next iteration of the Xbox, along with the handheld. The handheld is going to be another option because you know handhelds are getting popular again. So they are going to have the Rogue Ally option also for people who want to bring their games with them. So I think that needs to be what they focus on. And beyond that, obviously, Game Pass is still going to be that service that, you know, it's going to be their main kind of subscription service that you could also put that on, you know, a TV or whatever, you know. So I think that's what they probably need to focus on. In terms of the games, you know, they still have a lot of IPs. They have Call of Duty, they have Overwatch, they have, you know, they have so many IPs now that they've acquired these companies. They just need to make sure that the top IPs that have the biggest base of players are always going to come out, you know. So Forza, Call of Duty, Overwatch, World of Warcraft, you know, they need to make sure these IPs are always under development, always getting updates and all that. If they can manage to do that, I think they can survive into the next generation. You know, the minute they start canceling these big IPs, then that's when the problem starts, because you're gonna get a lot of angry gamers if you cancel, development of Overwatch 3 or something, or whatever. So they need to make sure all of those IPs stay intact and are serving the player base. So that's my thoughts on Microsoft, Xbox moving forward. But Anthony, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, man, I think you put it perfectly. I think both of you guys pretty much put it. I definitely think like Xbox as a competitor to PlayStation, Nintendo, those days are over. I don't think that's a day in the future anymore. I think that's like right now, right? Like I think it's over. Like they're no longer a competitor to PlayStation and Nintendo. If anything, they want to see themselves as a partner to PlayStation, Nintendo now. You can't beat them, join them. That's been around since the Bible days, right? So Microsoft just going with the oldest strategy in the book, man. You can't beat them, join them. So they start putting their games on Nintendo, start putting their games on PlayStation. So forget that. We're gonna play a different game, and that's basically what Xbox is doing. And so the question is, can Xbox continue to, be relevant? Yeah, I think so. If they go this way of like trying to be the Roku of video games, yeah, I think there's a future there. If executed right, I think there's a future there for sure. So we'll just have to wait and see. If they execute that vision right, then Microsoft will forever have a place in gaming. Xbox will forever have a brand in gaming. Now, the brand just won't be what we know it as. Kids are gonna grow up knowing Xbox as a OS, not even like an actual hardware. So that's what's happening. So yeah, I think they'll still be around, and will they still be able to be a factor and get money? I think so. I mean, we mentioned it earlier. Game Pass is very much still a good offer. Microsoft is very much still making really good competitive games. So as long as Microsoft is making like industry tent poles, there's not a world where Game Pass is invaluable. You know what I mean? Where you can get Forza, Halo. Like, yeah, all these games are coming to PlayStation, but for $90. You know what I mean? Like, forget all that. You know what I mean? Like, so we ain't mentioned that. It's going to cost you a good maybe $400, $500 to truly own the Microsoft catalog on a PlayStation and on a PC if we really want to keep it a buck if you don't have Game Pass. So, yes, I still think they got a very competitive offer. They're just not a hardware manufacturer no more, And they will make hardware, but the thing is, the hardware that they're making, they don't need to sell at a discount anymore. So whatever hardware does come out, I have no shadow of a doubt it's going to be top of the line. I have no shadow of a doubt it's going to be top of the line, but guess what? It's not going to be priced competitively. It's not going to be priced competitively. That new Xbox, that joint going to be expensive. And you know what? It's going to be worth it because it's going to probably be some high-end PC shit. And they don't need to sell 1 million of them either because they're going to make money out the gate. So I think there's a world where they can exist and continue to exist and continue to be a factor. So, they just won't be competitive. The console wars are over. PlayStation won. And now we're getting into another war landscape. That's all. It's another game now. So that's my answer.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And yeah, you mentioned the hardware. That's another thing I forgot to say, right? Because if they do go the simplified PC gaming route, where it's like, a simplified PC gaming Xbox, they could also make it so you could upgrade it. So like, and they'll make that process easy too. So like, they'll literally just have like a slot on the back of it for graphics card, processor, RAM, whatever. So then all you gotta do is just you buy a new one, slot it in, and you know they could keep this box going for decades if they wanted to. Like just you know, or they could release new limited editions or whatever. So there's a
I can
lot of
see that.
flexibility there.
I can see that them selling like a what they call them, a frame, and just like the chip is in the frame and the process is in the, you know, and then you can literally take those pieces out and upgrade just by doing that. Yeah. Make it modular. Make the next box very modular. Yeah, they'll exist. Yeah, they can still exist doing that. And look, like I said, that's going to be a box for me. That's going to be a box for me. The reason why is because I want a box that can play everything. I want to play Miles Morales. I want to play Halo. I want to play, but you know what? I don't want to pay for everything. So I want that Game Pass. So I ain't got to spend $80 every time I want to play a game. You know what I'm saying? Without Game Pass, Expedition 33 doesn't become what it was. It doesn't become the success it was. Because so many people would have been like, nah, I'm good. You know? So my thing is, bro, I'm not paying $90 each game. I'm done. I'm not doing that. And everybody's like, oh, the price of Game Pass gonna go up. Yeah, you know what? It might. It might.
Yeah.
It might. But you know what?
It might
$90 each game is still more expensive than a $2, $3, you know, price increase on Game Pass, man.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And one last point I will add, perfect example. You mentioned Expedition 33. I believe right after that, Doom came out. All these games, Game Pass. That's why I said, yeah, if you have Game Pass, you've been eating good this entire year because every major game that's come out, almost every major game you've been able to access on Game Pass. So
even smaller titles. Like what was that joint? The Blueprints or something? Like everybody was talking about that. That was a 9 out of 9 that came out, 10 out of 10 game that came out. And it was a small little indie title. So they even starting to get like critically acclaimed indie titles.
Yep.
You know, to be on that service. Like it's becoming like, I'm sorry, man. Like, yo, I don't see, yo, honestly, PlayStation users are rich, bro. Y'all rich. I got bread, man. I got bread. It's like you're paying for all these. I don't see how y'all do it, man. That's
hey. A lot of them also bought a PS5 Pro, so yeah, they got some money. They got some
a lot of money, man. Now, bro, y'all spending 90 racks, 90 bones, a title. My goodness. I'm saying in a world like that, and you telling me would Xbox still exist? Yes. Yes. You see the Trump bill that just dropped? Trump just dropped that bill where mad people take off their health care, cutting taxes for the rich, all of this stuff he doing. And then, yo, come on, man. You just got 8,000 people cut by Microsoft. Like all these jobs getting lost, not just in Microsoft, across different industries. And you tell me you got $90 to buy a game? Nah, man. I'm good, man. Y'all got money. PlayStation users got money. Discretionary income. So.
But wait, they've got PlayStation Plus, right?
Come on. you know PlayStation Plus ain't doing that. You know they ain't doing that. PlayStation users like to pretend that service is worth a damn, but it ain't. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, man. But y'all won. Y'all won the console war. So as long as you got that, spend your $90 with pride. So.
Yep. PlayStation did win the war. Well, them or Nintendo, one of them. But yeah, Microsoft you know, they're they're known as a software company. So when it comes to the software, and you know, digital is where everything's going, so they do have that advantage of, you know, being that. Like Anthony said, they've been building up to this for a long time. Like, how long ago was Game Pass launched? Has it been a decade yet? I don't know, but it's been a long time. So
It
you
has
know,
been around for a while.
they've
Yeah.
been setting this up for a long time. So yeah.
Yeah, they stopped trying to be the Netflix of games, and they just said, "Yo, you know, we want to be the Roku of games." And so, with a Netflix app, and that's what Game Pass is. So,
Yeah, and Gary, one last thing. Yeah, it was announced in 2017, so yeah, it's almost 10 years.
look at that.
Okay. So
Xbox
like
about
8
to
That's a
do a
long
years.
time.
10-year anniversary. They're gonna have a 10-year anniversary drop with mad shit on it.
Yeah. So, any final words, Rich, before we wrap this up and end off?
Oh no, I want to give a shout out to Mr. Anthony Fraser for joining us in this discussion, and also for you, Gary, as well. Yeah, there are plenty more things coming. I still have quite a bit of things I've been working on for Summer Game Fest, so you can stay tuned for that. And as Anthony said, we're going to be doing more things in the future, so definitely would encourage you all to stay tuned to the channel. And last thing, I will mention two things. Shout out to Miss Dana Abercrombie. I know she has not been feeling well. She's actually in the hospital now, so we do hope that she feels better. And the last thing I will mention is, yeah, Throwdown will be on tonight. I will make an appearance on there, so I would encourage you to check out that show because I know they're going to have a lot to say about this Microsoft stuff as well. But yeah, that's all.
Oh yeah, shouts to the Throwdown crew. I'm hearing about some special guests on there, so I know that's going to be a good one. But yeah, do subscribe to the YouTube channels. You know, the main channel, the Koalition, Koalition Entertainment, led by Dana. Get well soon, Dana, and also Koalition Gaming. So subscribe to those channels. Follow the content. You know, you can go to thecoalition.com and get everything. All the links are there, and you know, articles and everything is there. Anthony, anything you wanted to promote before we wrap this up?
Nah, man, just shout out to the Koalition, man. I'm looking forward to the next phase of the Koalition. You guys are doing wonderful work. Shout out to Dana. I didn't know she was in the hospital, so get well soon. And yeah, just everybody keep up the good work.
Excellent. So yeah, that is going to be it from us. Leave your comments. We'll be reading them for sure. Shouts to Reggie, because you're like one of the big reasons we're even doing this right now. So I better see a comment from you down there.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll see you guys next time. Take care.
Peace.
Peace.